There's no money for that. So you can't do that, right? It's a ridiculous request. So pay them what? Nothing? It's really a delay tactic. The judge is realizing there's no logic behind it. If you can't afford to pay somebody, you let them go. Every business in America understands that, unless they want to work for free. Lecturing Thune about talking to the media. Go talk to Chuck Schumer. Why don't you go get in the room with him and talk to him about why he loves healthcare for illegal aliens who don't deserve it?
But the notion that an official White House spokesperson would say that the Democratic Party consists of terrorists, violent criminals,
and
undocumented immigrants.
Illegals, that was the other one.
And then you got Caroline.
It makes perfect sense. Are you crazy? California judge freaks out over the RIFs. The shutdown is in effect, and now we see that Russ Vought and the Trump administration are saying, we're going to fire people. We can't pay them. We have no option. There's a necessity to make these changes, and we're doing it. Now, what happened, of course, as we've talked about here, the unions have sued and said, you can't fire anybody. You think you run the executive branch? You think you're like the president, like you're in charge, like the Constitution says you can do these things? They say, no, we're going to go to this judge in San Francisco, and we're going to now have Russ Vought come in here and explain what's happening. And the judge, as we saw yesterday, said no more firings, pause everything. So what we see is the judge has gotten an update. And so here is what they submitted in to the judge. They said, on Thursday, Your Honor, we learned, the unions, the people who are about to be fired, we learned from multiple credible sources that Trump and Russ Vought, they're planning to issue from the Department of Interior widespread RIFs coming up on Monday, October 20th. Notwithstanding this court's order. You said they can't do it, and they're doing it anyways. Counsel for the unions and the government bureaucrats immediately contacted Trump's counsel, the DOJ, DOI, you get it, for confirmation or denial of their plans, and saying, if you are planning your October 20th Monday RIF, that you give us information about the programs and offices affected and how you're going to comply with what this judge ordered you to do. She said you can't fire anybody that impacts offices, projects, or anything of anybody who's a part of our union, which is basically everybody because it's like largely mandatory. Counsel for defendants responded. So Trump's people responded. They didn't give us any information. We wanted all these answers. They didn't tell us anything. The only response from them is they said this: counsel, consistent with the court's order, we will produce the required information tomorrow. So have a nice night. Don't email me again. Now, the deadline set by this court is Friday at 5. And there we represent thousands of unions, and they're all at risk of the same type of harm that you granted previously in giving us our TRO, which we saw yesterday. The judge is like, well, they're going to lose their health care, and there's like a pregnant lady, or whatever, and they're not going to be able to have a baby or something if they don't go in, and HR is going to be closed because of the shutdown. And so you can't fire them because it's shut down, and they need to go talk to HR so that they can learn and be handheld out of the building when they're fired. And RIF, you can't do this. This is egregious. And so she carved out another stupid provision of the APA, the Administrative Procedures Act, which says you may be able to file a claim under this act if you can't file one elsewhere. And of course they can. They're getting fired just like anybody else. They can go get and file in the employee complaints bucket, but not in these Article 3 courts. Of course, they went to San Francisco and they found this judge, and she's like, no, you're going to be harmed. This is egregious. There's no other option, Judge. She calls it arbitrary and capricious. Tell that to the Democrats. They're defending the shutdown on behalf of illegal aliens. Their freak says, as a result, Trump and the administration, they will not confirm or deny. Are they preparing a RIF for next week? And if so, how are they going to fire people if you said they can't fire people? And we already saw this before, right? They just come out and they find, we saw this exactly with USAID. The court came down and said, your memo that's going to fire these people is halted. And they said, okay, that's fine. We have many other provisions of the law that we'll utilize. And they just conducted the cuts anyways. Remember Marco Rubio and them, they went in there and they reviewed like 1,000 contracts over a weekend pizza. And they were just excited about it. Oh yeah, no, he personally reviewed all these things. Canceled. It had nothing to do with the memo or a blanket wide policy change. It was just, we just made our own conclusions and fired him. So it's probably something, same thing is happening behind the scenes right now. And we love it. So they say they're not telling us anything. And so we have no choice, Judge, but to seek the urgent relief from you to protect the employees threatened by these actions. Saying you gave them a deadline and the RIFs are about to start, baby. You said don't fire anybody and they're going to. And second, we want an urgent status conference so that you can tell them to stop. We're going to file filed papers. And so in light of the risk of impending mass terminations and their refusal to tell us, are they going to issue RIFs? We're free. And so this is an emergency request to expand your TRO to prevent all of these blah, blah, blah. So finally, if the information provided is indeed planning and they don't confirm or deny this, then we need you to step in here and act. And the judge has in fact scheduled a hearing for this. And so we'll see what comes out in the aftermath. But they're very nervous, and the Trump administration is continuing to march forward with the decisions. Here's the president explaining more about what this is enabling him to do, which is to make these decisions because there is no money. It's not arbitrary. It's not capricious. It's a legitimate function of not having funding. It's like, why don't these judges just come back and say, you know what they need $1 million to, since they've been aggrieved? Give all these employees $1 million. There's no money for that. So you can't do that, right? It's a ridiculous request. So pay them what? Nothing? You know, it's really a delay tactic. The judge is realizing there's no logic behind it. If you can't afford to pay somebody, you let them go. Every business in America understands that, unless they want to work for free. So here is the president explaining.
Mr. President, do you think that the government shutdown is all about this rally that's happening this weekend, the No Kings rally?
No, I mean, some people say they want to delay it for the king. This is
more
not
than
a king. You know, they're referring to me as a king. I'm not a king.
Right. No, but just so that Chuck Schumer could go and say, I'm fighting Trump.
Well, Chuck is, at the end of the line. He's being beaten by everybody that they poll against him. And, what he did is he did the right thing a couple of years ago on something like this. And he got hurt by his party. And I don't think it matters to him. I think he's just so dead that he'll do anything. I think they could just stay out forever. I mean, to be honest with you. Now, what we're doing is we're cutting Democrat programs that we didn't want because, they made one mistake. They didn't realize that gives me the right to cut programs that Republicans never wanted. Giveaways, welfare programs, etc.
Abuse.
And we're doing that. Yeah. And we're cutting them permanently. We're cutting a $20 billion project that Schumer fought for 15 years to get. And I'm cutting the project. The project is going to be dead. It's pretty much dead right now.
Bye. And Chuck Schumer can go explain that and why he wanted that in the first place. And so we have other people. This is Alyssa Slotkin. She's a senator. She's definitely going to be running for president soon. You can tell because she's losing some weight. And here is what she had to say about this out in response to the shutdown.
We don't see a ton of Democrats, weakening in the knees and changing their votes. And so I think that's sending in a signal, as you heard in the last comments there. I do think it's enough. Like, we want to be able to sit in a room and have a negotiation. We don't need to negotiate through the press. I don't need to watch, Senator Thune on TV in order to find out what he says he's offering Democrats. Just get in a room.
You're on TV right now. She's a weird ex-CIA person, so she's probably trying some stupid mind trick that they have.
Adults do. And we can have this, out. It's going to start with healthcare, and I think he's said he's open to that. Great. Adults get in a room, they throw out the press, no offense, they throw out Twitter, and they just get to working. And that's the point that isn't happening. And no matter what Mr. Thune offers, I'm sorry, I got to know that President Trump is on board, because it's not enough anymore.
Okay, so now you're negotiating in public.
Or to take the word of Speaker Johnson or Senator Thune, because they have to go check with the big guy in the White House. So to me, this negotiation is about, frankly, going with the White House and having that debate, that negotiation together, so that we're not just like twiddling our thumbs here when Thune gets overruled or Johnson.
Okay, you're twiddling your thumbs on MSNBC right now, lecturing Thune about talking to the media. Go talk to Chuck Schumer. Why don't you go get in the room with him and talk to him about why he loves healthcare for illegal aliens who don't deserve it, who are taking resources from actual American citizens. So Hakeem was out. He had a meltdown today. We saw yesterday, Caroline Levitt on the show. She explained that, the Democrats are filled with, what'd she call them? Criminals, Antifa, and something else. It was like, that's a nice list there. Need to remember that. So he came out today and he's like, oh yeah, if you're going to call us names, here's what I'm going to call you. Caroline from Hakeem, Timu Obama.
And then you got Caroline Levitt.
What?
Who's sick. She's out of control.
Watch it.
And I'm not sure whether she's just demented,
Whoa,
ignorant, stone cold liar, or all of the above.
Well, it sounds like you're describing your party, and demented, that was your president, brother, for like a long time, 4 years. So I'm not real sure what that means exactly. Caroline Levitt, she's firing on all cylinders. She can actually speak at varied tonalities, at varied paces, unlike Timu Obama, who just does the same, 3-point delivery every single time he tries.
But the notion that an official White House spokesperson would say that the Democratic Party consists of terrorists, violent criminals, and undocumented immigrants.
Illegals! That was the other one.
And then you got Caroline.
It makes perfect sense. Are you crazy? So what is he talking about? Undocumented immigrants, they are. You guys have all the sanctuary cities. The blue states are just overflowing with sanctuary locations. LA, they say like 2 million in that region alone. 2 million. It's like 4 Wyomings in one state of illegal aliens. They're out there waving their flags. You guys want to give them health care. You've got violent criminals that you're releasing repeatedly all across the blue cities who are slicing ladies in the neck and shooting people in the neck. And you've also got terrorists, Antifa goons, who are shooting at ICE agents, now arrested as part of an Antifa terror cell. But here is Mike Johnson, was also out today talking about this party, pro-Hamas, far left, anarchist, Marxist, and communists.
Now, tomorrow, the Democrat leaders are going to join for a big party out on the National Mall. They're going to descend on our Capitol for their much anticipated so-called No Kings rally. We refer to it by its more accurate description, the Hate America rally.
True.
Okay? And I'm not sure how anybody can refute that. If you think about what's going to happen here tomorrow, you're going to bring together the Marxists, the socialists, the Antifa advocates, the anarchists, and the pro-Hamas wing of the far-left Democrat Party. That is the modern Democratic Party. Now, tomorrow, the Democrat leaders are going to join.
And they're, I guess, all going to be going over there, and we'll see what Chuck Schumer has to say. Maybe once it's over, they'll feel like they've placated their rabid, frothing base enough that they can open the government. Not sure that's going to happen. So we'll see what the turnout looks like tomorrow. I imagine it's going to be significant, and we hope that nothing goes wrong at all, obviously. But these people are maniacs, so we'll see what they instigate and what happens.